How did a struggling torpedo bomber evolve into a night-fighting legend? Strap in, this isn't just a story of wartime engineering, it's about how a flawed design, written off by critics, morphed into a predator so lethal, it rewrote the rules of aerial combat. Welcome to Historical Digs, where today we unearth the story of the Bristol Beaufighter, the Beau's ugly duckling that became the swan of World War II. The Beaufort's disastrous debut. In 1940, the Bristol Beaufort torpedo bomber was initially hailed as a technological marvel. Its sleek, streamlined design promised speed and power on paper, but reality was cruel. The Beaufort's wooden wings and aluminum fuselage were burdened by its 16,000-pound weight, leaving its twin Bristol Taurus engines, rated at just over 1,100 horsepower each, struggled to lift the aircraft. Pilots jokingly referred to it as a flying dustbin, a reflection of its sluggishness under payload. Its first major mission was a disaster. On April 9, 1941, 12 Beauforts attacked the German battleship Scharnhorst in Norway. Half the aircraft turned back due to engine failures or navigational errors. Those that reached the target dropped torpedoes from improvised angles, but none struck. One Beaufort crash-landed on a Norwegian island after taking flak, its crew captured. The mission's futility was undeniable. Scharnhorst escaped unscathed. In the Mediterranean, the Beaufort fared no better. During the Battle of Crete, its fabric-covered wings caught fire easily, and the lack of self-sealing fuel tanks turned hits into disasters. By mid-1941, its attrition rate soared, and further orders had to be cancelled until the design was fixed. Yet, within its flaws lay potential. The Beaufort's sturdy frame could withstand damage that crippled other aircraft. One crew survived a mid-air collision with a German Heinkel HE-111 over the Bay of Biscay in 1941. The Beaufort limped home on one engine. Engineers noted this resilience, scribbling notes for future modifications. The Beaufort's legacy as a torpedo bomber was sealed by its inadequacies, but its fate was far from over. The same design that made it a disappointment held the blueprint for something far more lethal, a detail its creators would soon exploit. Before we dig deeper into the Beaufighter's epic story, hit that like button and subscribe to Historical Digs. Your support helps us unearth the lost stories of history's most ingenious war machines. The radical makeover. The Beaufort's failures laid bare its flaws, but engineers saw beyond the wreckage. Its wooden wings and sturdy aluminum fuselage, though ill-suited for high-altitude bombing, offered a blank canvas for a new role, a multi-role fighter. In 1940, Bristol's designers embarked on a gamble, strip the Beaufort of its bombing role, and weaponize its frame. The result was the Beaufighter, a twin-engine warplane that redefined versatility and violence. The transformation began with raw power. Engineers swapped the underwhelming Bristol Taurus engines, rated at 1,100 horsepower, for Hercules radials, boosting output to 1,700 horsepower per engine. This upgrade alone added 20 miles per hour in speed, but it was the payload that turned the Beaufort into a predator. The bomb bay was replaced with 8 20mm Hispano cannons and 4 .303-inch machine guns in the nose, creating a lethal, close-range weapon system. Pilots could unleash a 5-second burst of fire packing 2,000 rounds, shredding enemy aircraft or ground targets with a single pass. The Beaufighter's design ethos was ruthless efficiency. Its cockpit was stripped of bomber luxuries, leaving only essentials for combat. The wide undercarriage, originally meant for rough airstrips, became a strength, allowing the planes to operate from unprepared fields and withstand rough landings after combat. Yet the Beaufighter's most revolutionary feature was invisible: the AI Mark X radar. This 1942 innovation, weighing 200 pounds and housed in a bulbous radome under the nose, allowed crews to see enemies at night. At a time when most night fighters relied on moonlight, the Beaufighter screen painted aircraft as blips up to 10 miles away, a tactical revolution. Test flights in 1930 were brutal. The first prototypes shook violently at high speeds. One nearly broke apart during a dive. Engineers reinforced the wings with steel plates, a fix so effective it became standard. Their early missions were reconnaissance, but crews quickly experimented. In October 1941, a Beaufighter attacked a German Ju-88 bomber near the North Sea. The Ju-88's pilot, unaware of the radar, turned to fight and was shredded mid-turn. The kill was accidental, but it proved the Beaufighter's potential. The Royal Air Force's Coastal Command saw the plane's anti-shipping potential first. In February 1942, Beaufighter sank 2 German E-boats in the English Channel using rockets and cannons, a feat deemed impossible just months earlier. Yet the Beaufighter's true identity was still untested. Its designers had created a weapon, but its pilots would decide its legacy. How radar turned the tide. The Beaufighter's prowess against U-boats and E-boats proved its versatility, but its true mastery emerged in the skies over Britain. In 1941, the Luftwaffe's night raids had become a relentless nightmare. Bombers like the Heinkel He-111 and Junkers Ju-88 rained bombs on cities while RAF night fighters, flying blind, struggled to intercept. The Beaufighter's radar promised a revolution. It could turn darkness into a weapon. The AI Mark 10 radar, a 200-pound marvel crammed under the nose, was the plane's secret. It painted enemy aircraft as flickering blips on a screen, visible up to 10 miles away. But mastering it required precision. Pilots learned to feel the radar's pulse, interpreting the screen's chaotic patterns to judge distance and speed. Flight Lieutenant John "Cat's Eyes" Cunningham, a pioneer of night fighting, described it as dancing with ghosts. His crew practiced for months, simulating attacks in pitch-black cockpits until they could see with their senses alone. The first breakthrough came in November 1940. Cunningham's Beaufighter intercepted an He-111 over the Thames estuary. Using the radar's data, he closed in silently until the bomber filled his gun sight. One burst of cannons, and it was down, the RAF's first radar-assisted night kill. By August, Cunningham's No. 25 Squadron had claimed 20 kills, a staggering leap from the 1 in 100 success rate of earlier unaided fighters. The Luftwaffe dubbed the Beaufighter Nachtjäger-Teufel, the Night Hunter Devil. The stakes escalated in 1944. As part of Operation Steinbock, the Luftwaffe launched 16 major raids on London. The Beaufighters met them head-on. On the night of January 21, 1944, 40 German bombers faced 20 Beaufighters. The results were catastrophic. 9 bombers down, 2 damaged, for no losses. The tide had turned. By year's end, RAF night fighters were shooting down Luftwaffe aircraft at a rate of 1 to 3, a reversal so sharp that Göring's night fighter arm, the Nachtjagd, scrambled to catch up. The Beaufighter's tactics were brutal and efficient. Crews flew in tight cab ranks, stacked at different altitudes to intercept targets. They learned how to bounce bombers from above, diving silently before unleashing their cannons. One tactic, the cuckoo, involved mimicking the sound of German engines to lure targets into traps. The radar's range also allowed shadowing, tracking bombers to their bases, guiding follow-up strikes. The statistics tell the story. In 1941, the Luftwaffe lost 126 night bombers. By 1943, that number soared to 600, with Beaufighters accounting for nearly half. Cities like Coventry and Birmingham, once regular targets, saw raids dwindle as losses crippled German morale. Yet the Beaufighter's impact extended beyond kills. Its radar forced the Luftwaffe to abandon daylight tactics, diverting bombers to less precise night raids that caused fewer casualties. By mid-1943, Hitler himself reportedly raged, "The British have turned their night skies into a cage." The Beaufighter's legacy in the Battle of Britain's night phase was undeniable. It wasn't just a plane, it was a psychological weapon. Crews like Cunningham's proved that radar could outthink human instinct, and that darkness, once an ally to bombers, could now be a pilot's greatest tool. The Beaufighter's legacy. The Beaufighter's exploits in the night skies and over the Atlantic were extraordinary, but its true victory lies in its enduring influence. The plane's innovations, radar integration, multi-role adaptability, and twin-engine versatility paved the way for modern combat aviation. Today, fighter jets like the F-35 and drones armed with AI-driven sensors carry traces of its DNA, proving that the Beaufighter's legacy is not just history, it's airborne. The Beaufighter's AI Mark 10 radar was revolutionary, fusing technology with human intuition. Pilots could interpret radar data in real time, a concept now called sensor fusion. Modern fighter jets like the F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II use this principle, combining radar, infrared sensors, and GPS into a unified cockpit display. The AI Mark 10's bulbous radome, once mocked as a giant egg, is a spiritual predecessor to today's AESA, or Actively Electronically Scanned Array radars, which scan targets without moving parts. The F-14 Tomcat, introduced in the 1970s, drew on the twin-engine, long-range intercept philosophy seen in earlier aircraft like the Beaufighter, but its variable sweep wings were more directly influenced by Cold War interceptor programs. Even drones like the MQ-9 Reaper owe a debt. Their reliance on radar and electro-optical systems to track targets on land and sea reflects the conceptual inspiration of the Beaufighter's dual role as a hunter-killer. The Beaufighter was a pioneer in multi-role capabilities, a concept now central to modern air forces. It could strike ships, shoot down bombers, and scout enemy positions, all from the same airframe. Today's FA-18 Super Hornet and Eurofighter Typhoon replicate this versatility, swapping cannons for missiles and depth charges for smart bombs. The Beaufighter's success hinged on rapid upgrades, a philosophy still vital today. Engineers swapped engines, added radar, and even mounted rockets without redesigning the entire aircraft. It showed that necessity could outstrip tradition. The overarching message? Old platforms can still define new wars. But could a modern military afford to recycle a failed design today? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to join us on the next historical dig. Until then, remember, history is full of hidden gems if you know where to dig.